The boardroom in Tel Aviv was silent, cooled to an uncomfortable temperature. It was 1983. The silence was a memorial for the vacant chair, a space left for a station chief who would never return. The operation in Rome had been a catastrophic failure. The target, a logistics man for the Abu Nidal organization, had been alerted. The ensuing confrontation on the Via Veneto had been loud, public, and bloody. It wasn't just the loss of the target, it was the exposure. The Italian government was furious. The Rosh of Mossad, the director, stared at the polished table. "They see us coming," he said, his voice a low gravel. "Our cover legends are stale. We look like businessmen, we look like academics, we look like journalists. They know the playbook." He tapped a file. Inside was a proposal, radical and untested. "We are hunters, but a hunter who is seen is just a man walking in the woods. We need a new kind of cover, one that invites people in, one that moves across borders legally every single day, one that has a legitimate, public-facing reason to be everywhere." A deputy, known only as Gideon, spoke. "What are you suggesting?" "A travel agency." The room paused. A travel agency? It seemed absurd. It was civilian. It was soft. "Think of it," the Rosh continued, leaning forward. "It has a legitimate flow of cash from international clients. It has a fleet of vehicles, buses, vans. It has employees who are paid to ask questions. Where are you going? How long will you stay? Who are you traveling with? It has access to flight manifests, hotel reservation systems, and customs forms. It is the perfect, self-sustaining legend." The plan was codenamed Operation Odyssey. It would not be a single office. It would be a network, with its headquarters placed in the most hostile, most critical territory of all, Beirut. From there, it would grow branches. Damascus, Cairo, Amman, a logistical hub in Athens. It would be called Oasis Tours and Adventures. It would specialize in archaeological digs, religious pilgrimages, and hiking expeditions, the kinds of niche travel that provided a perfect excuse for its agents to be near sensitive border areas, refugee camps, and political centers. The mission was twofold. First, to be the legend, to function as a real, profitable travel agency. It would run tours, book flights, and deal with lost luggage. Second, to use that legitimate cover as a platform for Mossad's Caesarea operations division. Its vans would carry surveillance teams. Its clients would, occasionally, be Kaidan operators traveling on sterile passports. And its manager would be a deep-cover Katsa, case officer. The vacant chair in the room was a stark reminder of the cost. This new operation could not fail. They needed a specific kind of officer to run the Beirut hub, not a trigger puller. They needed a man who could smile while selling a beach package, a man who could absorb the minutiae of hotel profit margins, and a man who could, in the same hour, coordinate the neutralization of a high-value target. They found him in a man named Ami. Ami was not his name. His name was buried in a military personnel file in Tel Aviv. Ami Harari was a legend, constructed with the meticulous care of a watchmaker. He was born in Marseille, France. His father was a French-Jewish importer of textiles. He had studied hospitality management in Switzerland. He spoke flawless French, Arabic, with a credible Levantine dialect, and passable English. He was charming, slightly disorganized, and perpetually stressed about profit margins. He was, in every conceivable way, the perfect middle manager. In April 1984, Ami arrived in Beirut. The city was a mosaic of chaos and elegance, still bearing the fresh scars of conflict. Checkpoints run by various militias carved the streets into unpredictable territories. He leased a modest but respectable office on Hamra Street, a bustling commercial artery. He spent 2 months on the setup. He hired a local contractor, an unwitting civilian, to build a false wall in the back storeroom. Behind it, secured by a high-end Medico lock he'd brought in his diplomatic luggage, was the real office, a small soundproofed cubicle containing a high-frequency burst transmission radio and encryption pads. He hired 2 local employees, Salma, a sharp, middle-aged woman to run the front desk and bookings, and a young man named Ziad as a driver and general logistics handler. Both were civilians. Both believed they were working for an ambitious, if slightly naive, French entrepreneur. "Ami, the phone bill is astronomical," Salma would complain, holding up the invoice. "Salma, my love, we are building a dream," Ami would reply, flashing a reassuring smile. "We must call Athens, we must call Rome. How else do we get the German tourists?" His days were a masterpiece of dual realities. He spent 8 hours genuinely working. He negotiated rates with hotels in Byblos. He designed brochures for historical tours of the Bekaa Valley. He personally smoothed over a crisis when a busload of Italian tourists complained their hotel lacked hot water. He was good at the job. Oasis tours began to turn a small, legitimate profit. But at night, his work changed. He would lock the office, dismiss Salma and Ziad, and slip into the hidden room. The airless space smelled of ozone and metal. There he would sit, headphones on, deciphering the coded signals from Tel Aviv. His targets were not tourists, they were shadows. Specifically, the network of Ghassan al-Hamdi, known as the Engineer. Al-Hamdi was the architect of the Rome bombing. He was a brilliant paranoid bomb maker for a radical Palestinian faction, and he had vanished. Intelligence suggested he was moving between Beirut, Damascus, and Libya. He was the primary reason Oasis tours existed. Ami's method was patient. He used the travel agency's resources with surgical precision. When a Mossad intelligence report suggested a potential courier for the Engineer was staying at the Commodore Hotel, Ami didn't send a surveillance team. He called the hotel manager, a man he played poker with. "Habibi, I have a big group coming from Germany. Can I see your guest ledger for the last 2 weeks? I want to see which nationalities you are attracting." The manager, eager for the business, obliged. Ami got the ledger. The courier's name was on it. The hunt had begun, not with a bang, but with a polite business request. By its second year, Oasis Tours was a fixture on Hamra Street. Its bright blue and gold sign was a symbol of normalcy, even optimism. The agency's vans, freshly washed by Ziad, were a common sight, ferrying tourists to Jeta Grotto or the Roman ruins of Baalbek. This veneer of banality was Ami's greatest weapon. The agency's true function was logistics. When a Mossad operational team needed to photograph a new safe house used by the Engineer's faction, they didn't sneak in. They booked a tour. 3 agents posing as French archaeologists signed up for an Oasis Tours trip to the Bekaa Valley. Ami assigned Ziad to drive them. Ziad, proud of his knowledge, happily narrated the history of the region. "And here," Ziad said, "is where the old temples are. But just over that hill, very sensitive, political." "How fascinating," the lead agent replied, snapping photos with a long-lens camera. His photos were not of temples. They were high-resolution images of the farmhouses, checkpoints, and dirt roads leading to the safe house. The images were passed to Ami that night, hidden in a hollowed-out tourist guide. Ami's greatest challenge was not the enemy, it was his own staff. Salma, in particular, was dangerously competent. She noticed everything. "Ami," she said one Tuesday, looking at the fuel receipts. "This bus, the Bekaa trip, it used a full tank of fuel, but the mileage doesn't match. It should only be half." Ami felt a cold spike in his chest. The surveillance team had taken a 4-hour detour to observe the safe house. He forced a laugh, rubbing the back of his neck. "Salma, you found me out. I told Ziad to take the bus to my cousin's village to deliver some olive oil. My aunt has been bothering me. Please don't put it in the official books. I'll pay for the fuel myself." Salma rolled her eyes. "Ami, this is a business, not your family charity. Fine, but don't let it happen again." The lie was exhausting. Ami lived in a state of constant humming paranoia. He was managing 2 distinct businesses. One was measured in profit and loss, the other in life and death. The stress manifested in migraines. He kept a bottle of aspirin in his desk, next to his hollowed-out pen, which contained a tiny, single-use cyanide capsule. The real breakthrough came from the mundane. Oasis Tours had a small, mostly unused office in Damascus, run by a single, unwitting local. It existed purely to secure cross-border permits. Ami, as the regional manager, had a legitimate reason to travel between Beirut and Damascus. He used these trips to coordinate with the Mossad station in Syria. On one such trip, posing as a routine inspection, he met his Syrian contact, a businessman named Yaqub. They met in the Umayyad Mosque, their voices masked by the bustle of pilgrims. "The engineer is here," Yaqub whispered, pretending to admire the tile work. "He's not in Beirut, he's here. He is meeting a supplier." Ami's heart hammered. "Where?" "A chemical plant in the suburbs. We don't have eyes inside." Oasis Tours did, or rather it would. Ami returned to Beirut. He told Salma, "Big news. I am partnering with a Syrian university. We are launching chemical industry and history tours for European students. We need a contact at a major chemical supplier in Beirut, just to learn the business." Salma, ever efficient, made a list. There are 3 main importers. The largest is Beirut Chemical Solutions. The logistics manager there is a woman named Rana. Ami looked at the name. Rana. She wasn't the target. She was the vector. Rana Khalaf was a 34-year-old woman trapped by circumstance. She was sharp, educated in chemistry, but underpaid. She lived in a small apartment in Akrafie with her mother, who required expensive medication for a failing heart. Rana's salary at Beirut Chemical Solutions barely covered their expenses. She was, in the cold calculus of intelligence, a perfect target for recruitment. Ami could not approach her. It was too risky. Oasis Tours was a clean entity. Its manager could not be seen making clandestine approaches. This required a cutout, a katsa from the Lohama Psychological Warfare Division. He arrived from Athens, posing as a German consultant named Herr Schmidt, representing a European plastics company. He booked a meeting with Beirut Chemical Solutions. Ami's agency, Oasis Tours, handled his hotel and car rental, a seamless, legitimate service. Schmidt's meeting was not with the CEO. It was with Rana. He charmed her. He spoke of new European regulations, of the need for partners in the region. He was impressed by her knowledge. He took her to a business lunch at a fancy restaurant Ami had recommended. "You are wasted here, Rana," Schmidt said, sipping his wine. "Your expertise, it is worth so much more. In Beirut, you take what you can get." Rana replied, a familiar bitterness in her voice. "Perhaps not," Schmidt said. He slid a simple proposal across the table. "My company needs consultancy. We need to understand the flow of certain precursors, nitrates, glycerols, acetones, who is buying and in what quantities. It is simple market research. We would pay you $5,000 in cash, just for a look at your recent manifests." Rana's breath caught. $5,000. It was 6 months' salary. It was her mother's medication for a year. "That is confidential. It is market research," Schmidt said gently. "I am not asking you to steal. I am asking for your expertise. You would be a consultant." She wrestled with it for a week. Ami knew because he had a surveillance team, the same archaeologists from the Bikai trip, watching her apartment. They watched her go to the pharmacy, watched her argue with the pharmacist over a partial payment. The next week she called Herr Schmidt. The meeting was set. Rana provided the manifests. Schmidt paid her. She was now an asset. The money, she told herself, was for her mother. The first compromise is always the easiest. Ami received the manifests via a dead drop. He spread them on the floor of his hidden room. His hands shook, not from fear, but from adrenaline. He found it. Small, regular shipments of a specific industrial-grade acetone delivered to a holding company in the port. A company with no factory, no public presence. A tiny note in the margin, in Rana's handwriting, read, "This one." The order was phoned in by a man who insisted on paying cash. Picked up by a blue truck. No license plate. She had given them more than they asked for. She was hooked, and she had just confirmed the supply chain for Ghassan al-Hamdi, the engineer. The engineer was cautious. He never stayed in one place for more than a few days. The intel from Rana's manifests, combined with satellite data, showed the blue truck moving from the Beirut port, not to a warehouse, but to a staging ground in the Syrian-controlled Bikai Valley. From there, the materials vanished. Ami's team needed to know where they were going. The logical destination was Damascus, where the engineer was believed to be building his new laboratory. Ami went to his desk and began drafting a new tour package. "Salma," he called, projecting excitement. "I have it, our masterpiece. The Silk Road rediscovered, a journey from Beirut to Damascus. We will focus on the old khans, caravanserais. It's perfect for the academic market." Salma was skeptical. "Ami, the border is a nightmare. The visas, the checkpoints, it's too much hassle." "That is why we are the best," Ami insisted. "We will handle everything. The permits, the guards. We will be the only agency brave enough to do it." He spent a month working the bureaucracy. He used Oasis tours as a legitimate shield, visiting Syrian ministries of tourism and antiquities. He greased palms. He drank endless cups of tea. He complained about paperwork. He was the persistent, harmless travel agent. Finally, he secured the permits. Oasis Tours was now one of the few agencies officially licensed to run tourist buses between the two capitals. The first tour was not for tourists. It was for a Neviat, operational reconnaissance team, 4 men and 1 woman, all posing as Canadian university professors. They boarded the Oasis Tours bus in Beirut, Ziad at the wheel, humming a Fairuz song. At the border, the Syrian guards were gruff. They boarded the bus. Ami, managing the crossing himself, was a flurry of smiles and paperwork. "This is Professor Lamont," Ami said, introducing the team leader. "He is a world-renowned expert on Umayyad architecture, a guest of the Ministry of Antiquities." He produced the letter, stamped and official. The guard grunted, impressed. He waved them through. The bus, now deep inside Syria, did not head for the Great Khans. It developed engine trouble on a dusty road overlooking the industrial suburbs of Damascus, the very suburbs Yaqub had indicated. The professors disembarked, complaining about the heat. They opened their briefcases, allegedly to get water and maps. Inside were sophisticated listening devices and high-powered optics. For 6 hours, Ziad and Ami fixed the engine. Ami had personally disabled the fuel pump. The team mapped the entire suburb. They identified 3 potential sites, but one stood out. A former textile factory, surrounded by a high wall, with new heavy-duty ventilation fans installed on the roof. They had found the lab. Rana Khalaf was becoming a valuable asset. The consultancy fee from Herr Schmidt had changed her life. Her mother's health improved. Rana herself bought new clothes. She was more confident. But with the confidence came fear. Schmidt was gone. Her new contact was a woman, Monique, a French art dealer who, like Schmidt, was a client of Oasis Tours. The meetings were different, less business, more personal. Monique met Rana for coffee, for walks along the Corniche. This was the second phase of recruitment, building psychological dependency. "Rana, you are doing vital work," Monique told her as they watched the sea. "These chemicals, they are being diverted. We believe they are being used to create weapons. You are saving lives." Rana wanted to believe it. "I am just a shipping manager." "You are a hero," Monique insisted, squeezing her hand. The next request was bigger. "We need to know when the next shipment is picked up. We need the exact day, the exact time, and we need to know the destination." This was no longer market research. This was active espionage. Rana was terrified. She refused. 2 days later, 2 thuggish men, clearly from a local militia, visited her apartment. They didn't threaten her. They just sat in the hallway. They were there when she left for work. They were there when she came home. She called Monique, hysterical. "There are men watching me." "I know," Monique said, her voice cold. "They are not with us. They are with him, the engineer. He knows there is a leak. He is checking his entire supply chain. Rana, you are in danger. Your mother is in danger. The only people who can protect you are us. But you must help us." It was a lie, a brutal piece of psychological theater. The men were Mossad assets, hired to play a part. But for Rana, the threat was real. She was trapped. She agreed. "What do you need?" "The next shipment," Monique said, "and we are giving you a gift." The gift was a small magnetic transmitter, the size of a matchbox. "The next time the blue truck arrives, drop this, into a box, under the truck, anywhere. We will handle the rest." A week later, the call came. The blue truck was on its way. Rana's hands were slick with sweat. She walked to the loading bay, the transmitter heavy in her pocket. The driver, a grim-faced man, watched her sign the manifest. As he turned to yell at a worker, Rana bent down, as if to tie her shoe, and attached the transmitter to the truck's axle. It drove away. Rana went to the bathroom and was sick. In his hidden room, Ami watched a small blip on a receiver. The truck was moving. It was heading for the Bekaa Valley and then across the border. It was heading straight for the textile factory in Damascus. They had him. The file on Ghassan al-Hamdi was now thick. They had his lab. They had his supply chain. Now they needed to finalize the operation. This was beyond Ami's team. This was a job for the Qidan. The problem was insertion. The Qidan are the phantoms of Mossad, the operational specialists. They could not fly into Damascus. They couldn't cross the land border as professors. They needed a cover that was both invisible and plausible. Ami found the solution in his own database. Oasis Tours had a tiny, unprofitable side business, private yacht charters out of Cyprus for wealthy Europeans who wanted to visit the casinos and nightclubs of Beirut. A team of 3, 2 men and a woman, arrived in Larnaca, Cyprus. They were traveling on forged high-quality Irish passports, identifying them as a creative director, a sound engineer, and a model. They were young, loud, and ostensibly rich. They chartered a 50-foot yacht. For 2 days they partied, making themselves known to the Larnaca marina. They were obnoxious tourists, exactly as planned. On the 3rd night, they set sail for Beirut. Halfway there, they cut their radio. They rendezvoused with an Israeli Navy fast boat in international waters. The party gear was swapped for operational equipment, silent sidearms, specialized entry tools, and a small, sophisticated explosive charge designed for a precise, contained effect. They arrived at the Beirut marina at dawn. Ami was waiting for them, playing the part of the officious travel agent. "Welcome to Beirut," he beamed, holding an Oasis Tours sign. "I am Ami. I trust your journey was pleasant. Your car is waiting." The team leader, Declan, flashed a drunken grin. "Whatever, man. Just get us to the hotel. Is the bar open?" Ami drove them, not to a hotel, but to a secure apartment in East Beirut. The demeanor changed instantly. The laughter vanished. Declan, the team leader, was cold, analytical. "The bus," Declan said. "When does it run?" "The Silk Road tour leaves for Damascus in 2 days," Ami replied. "You will be on it. You are audio engineers, part of a documentary crew filming the old cons." Ami had already prepared their equipment. Their sound gear, booms, mixers, cases, had been shipped to the Oasis Tours office a week prior. The Syrian customs had already inspected and cleared the harmless shells. The Qidan team spent the next 36 hours in the secure apartment, meticulously refitting the hollowed-out equipment with their tools of the trade. The Oasis Tours van, driven by the unsuspecting Zayed, picked them up. "Wow, big cameras," Zayed said cheerfully. "Big documentary," the female operator, Sarah, replied with a smile. "We're hoping to win an award." They boarded the bus with the other legitimate tourists. Ami watched them go, a knot in his stomach. The most dangerous part of his operation was now disguised as a history tour. The Silk Road bus arrived in Damascus. The documentary crew checked into their hotel, a different one from the main tour group, citing a need for specialized technical rooms. Ami had arranged it all. Their rooms, provided by the Syrian Mossad station, were pre-stocked and secure. The target, the old textile factory, was a fortress. The engineer was not foolish. He had armed guards, high walls, and only one main entrance. A frontal assault was impossible. The Qidan team's cover was their key. For 2 days, they filmed. They filmed the Umayyad Mosque. They filmed the markets. They filmed the old city walls. They were visible, loud, and harmless. They even interviewed the Syrian Minister of Tourism, a contact Ami had cultivated. They were building a pattern of life that was undeniably civilian. Their real work happened at night. Declan and the 3rd operator, Mark, slipped from their hotel. They moved through the sewers and rooftops, using a route mapped by the local Sayanim, helpers. They reached the factory. For 6 hours they didn't try to get in. They listened. They used laser microphones to pick up vibrations on the walls, counting footsteps, mapping interior rooms. They used thermal imagers to find the main laboratory, which glowed warmer than the rest of the building. They identified a fatal flaw. The engineer, paranoid about aerial surveillance, had built his lab partially underground. To ventilate the chemical fumes, he used an old, forgotten network of Ottoman-era stone drainage tunnels. The opening was small, 2 kilometers away, hidden in the cellar of a ruined khan. The next day, Sarah, the female operator, approached the Ministry of Tourism. "We have found the most amazing location," she gushed. "The Khan Assad Pasha. It's ruined, but the atmosphere. We must film there." The official, flattered, signed the permits. That afternoon, the Oasis Tours van, now driven by a local Syrian asset, dropped the crew and their piles of equipment at the Khan. They set up lights. They blocked the entrances with filming in progress signs. As Sarah directed extras, Declan and Mark slipped into the cellar. They opened the equipment cases. They were not sound engineers, they were combat engineers. They found the tunnel opening. It was narrow, choked with debris. For the next 8 hours, they dug, shored up the tunnel, and began their slow, silent approach, moving centimeter by centimeter beneath the earth toward the heart of the factory. Ami, back in Beirut, could do nothing but wait. He ran a tour to Byblos. He argued with a hotel manager about complimentary breakfasts. He was selling dreams, while 100 kilometers away, his colleagues were crawling toward a nightmare. The Oasis Tours office was busy. A group of German hikers had arrived, and their luggage was lost by the airline. Salma was frantic. Ami was on the phone with the airport, projecting professional outrage, demanding action. "This is unacceptable. Oasis Tours promises seamless travel," he yelled into the receiver. In the middle of his performance, his private line buzzed. It was a single, short ring, followed by silence. The prearranged signal. The Damascus team was in position. He hung up on the airport manager. "Salma, handle this," he said, his voice suddenly flat. He walked into his office and closed the door. In Damascus, Declan and Mark were directly beneath the lab floor. They had been in the tunnel for 14 hours. Above them, they could hear the hum of machinery and the murmur of Arabic voices. The engineer was there. Sarah, topside, was the lookout. Her documentary was the perfect cover. She was on the roof of a nearby building, filming panoramic shots. Her high-powered camera aimed directly at the factory gate. She spoke into her radio, which was concealed as a sound-mixing prop. "The target is stationary. Lab is active. We have 4 guards at the gate, 2 on the roof. The blue truck is at the loading bay. We are in position," Declan whispered, "beginning placement." They didn't use a large bomb. The engineer's lab was full of volatile precursors. A large explosion would level the entire neighborhood, a diplomatic disaster. They used a shape charge device designed to cut, not explode. It was paired with a small canister of an incendiary agent. The goal was surgical, to breach the floor and instantly incinerate the lab and its contents, neutralizing the engineer and his work without destroying the building. They set the timer for 30 minutes. Silently, they crawled back through the tunnel. Back in Beirut, Ami received the second signal. "Wrap." He stood up, his shirt soaked in sweat. He walked out to the main office. Salma was still on the phone. "Ami, the airport is useless." "It's fine, Salma," he said, his voice distant. "Buy the Germans new clothes. Use the company credit card. Everything. I have a headache. I'm going for a walk." He walked to the Corniche. He stared at the Mediterranean. He was a travel agent. He booked holidays. He sold experiences. At exactly 4:17 p.m., an anonymous call was placed to the Syrian Fire Department, reporting a chemical fire at an abandoned factory. The explosion was not large. It was a dull thump. From Sarah's vantage point, it was a success. Black smoke poured from the roof ventilators. The shape charge had cut the floor. The incendiary had ignited the acetone. The lab was an inferno. The engineer and his entire life's work were gone. The documentary crew packed their gear. By the time the fire trucks arrived, the Oasis Tours van was already driving them to the Lebanese border, passing the tour bus, filled with happy tourists, going the other way. The operation was a flawless success. Ghassan al-Hamdi was removed. His network was blind. Tel Aviv was ecstatic. Ami, however, felt no triumph. He felt only the crushing weight of the details. The documentary crew was extracted via the yacht, which ran into engine trouble and was rescued by the Israeli Navy in international waters. The equipment was dumped. The Irish passports were destroyed. But the cover, Oasis Tours, remained, and it had a vulnerability. Her name was Rana. With the engineer gone, Rana's protection from Monique vanished. She was left alone with what she had done. The money was a comfort, but the guilt was corrosive. She began to drink. She missed work. Her boss at Beirut Chemical Solutions, suspicious of her erratic behavior and the sudden disappearance of his cash-only client, started his own quiet investigation. He reviewed the manifests. He noted the dates of the acetone sales. He remembered Rana's German consultant. He called a friend, a captain in the Lebanese General Sûreté, General Security. He wasn't accusing Rana of espionage. He thought she was involved in industrial smuggling. The Sûreté captain was thorough. He pulled Rana's phone records. He saw the repeated calls to a single burner number, Monique's. He saw the deposits in her bank account. This was not smuggling. This was something bigger. Monique had already been extracted. Her legend dissolved. But the Sûreté was now looking at Rana, and Rana was the only link back to Oasis Tours. Ami received the warning from a local asset inside the Sûreté. They are picking up the chemical manager tonight. Rana was a loose end that could hang them all. Ami had two options. He could order her neutralization, a car accident, a tragic overdose. It was the cold, operationally sound decision. Or he could get her out. He looked at the picture of her on his desk, a printout from the surveillance file. The terrified woman who just wanted to pay for her mother's medicine. "Get the boat ready," he messaged Tel Aviv. "The Athens boat. We have a passenger." This was not a sanctioned operation. This was a personal risk. He was breaking protocol. He left the office, telling Salma he was going to a travel agents conference in Junya. He drove to Akrafi. He found Rana in her apartment, packing a bag, crying. "They are coming for me," she whispered, her face pale. "I know," Ami said. "Who am I?" "You? You are Monsieur Ami, from the travel agency. You recommended Herr Schmidt." The realization dawned. "You?" "Yes," Ami said. "And you are leaving, right now. You can't take anything. You can't see your mother. You will go to the pharmacy. You will tell them you are transferring her to a hospital in France, and you will give them this." He handed her an envelope stuffed with cash. "Enough for a year. Then we go." She did it. Numb with shock, she followed him. They didn't take his car. They walked, blending into the evening crowds, taking 3 different taxis, a pre-planned extraction route. They arrived at a small, dark beach north of Byblos. A Zodiac boat, launched from a Mossad crude freighter offshore, was waiting. "Where am I going?" Rana asked, her teeth chattering. "Athens. Then a new life, a new name. You will be safe. Your mother will be cared for. But you can never come back," Ami said. She stepped into the boat. She didn't look back. The Zodiac sped into the darkness. Ami watched it go. He had saved her. He had also, definitively, compromised his own cover. The Sûreté would arrive at her empty apartment. They would find the Oasis Tours brochure on her table, the one Schmidt had given her. The thread was now pulled. The Sûreté was slow, but they were not stupid. The discovery of Rana's empty apartment, combined with the tip from her boss, pointed them toward Oasis Tours. It began subtly. 2 plainclothes officers came into the agency. They didn't ask for Ami. They asked Salma for brochures. "We are planning a trip for our athletic club," one said, his eyes scanning the office, the filing cabinets, the back room. "To the Becca." Salma, helpful as ever, gave them the packages. Ziad, in the back, recognized one of the men. He had seen him at a checkpoint. "Ami," Ziad whispered later that day. "Those men, they were not tourists. They were Mukhabarat, secret police." Ami nodded slowly. "I know. It is a misunderstanding. A problem with our Syrian permits. I will go to the ministry and sort it out." He was lying to Ziad for the last time. He knew the burnout phase had begun. He went to his apartment. He packed a single bag. He methodically destroyed his French identity papers, his Ami Harari driver's license, his membership to the Commodore Poker Club. He erased the legend. He returned to the office late at night. The street was quiet. He bypassed his own security system, a simple alarm for Salma's peace of mind. He slipped into the hidden room. He began the operational sanitation. The encryption pads were dissolved in a chemical bath. The radio's core components were smashed. He took the operational files, the manifests from Rana, the surveillance photos from the BKA, the logistics for the Kedon team, and placed them in a small, high-temperature incinerator. He watched years of his life turn to ash. The friendships, the lies, the stress, the victory, all of it, reduced to smoke. As the embers cooled, he heard a noise at the front door. A key. His blood froze. He drew his sidearm. The door opened. It was Salma. She stood in the doorway, her face etched with worry. "Ami, I knew you would be here. Ziad called me. He said the Mukhabarat came. I was worried. What is going on?" She looked past him, at the open, hidden door. She saw the electronic equipment, the burnt files. "Ami, what is this?" Ami looked at her, the most loyal, competent employee he had ever known. The woman who had covered for him, argued with him, and who was, in her own way, his friend. She was the final loose end. The operational manual was clear. Any local who discovers a secure room must be neutralized. Salma looked at the gun in his hand. She didn't scream. She just looked betrayed. "All of it," she whispered. "The phone bills, the fuel receipts, the archaeologists. It was all this." Ami's hand was steady. He was Elian, a Mossad officer. He had a duty. He raised the pistol. He looked into her eyes, and he saw the manager of the Commodore Hotel. He saw Ziad, humming Fairuz. He saw the German tourists complaining about hot water. He saw the life he had built. He lowered the gun. "Salma," he said, his voice ragged. "Go home. Lock your door. When they come, tell them everything you know. Tell them you thought I was a smuggler. Tell them you were afraid. Tell them the truth as you knew it. They will believe you. You are innocent. But you?" "I was never here," he said. He picked up his bag. He walked past her, out the front door of Oasis Tours. He didn't look back. By dawn, Ami was gone. He did not cross the border. He was extracted the same way the Kedon team had been, from a dark beach, by a silent boat. He was the last tourist Oasis Tours ever served. The Sûreté raided the office at 9 a.m. They found Salma at her desk, weeping. They kicked in the door to Ami's office. They found the hidden room, but it was empty, sterile. It told them what he was, but not who he was, or where he had gone. Salma and Ziad were detained for weeks. Their interrogation was harsh, but their stories were consistent. They were victims. Their boss, Monsieur Harari, was a fraud. He had used them. They were eventually released, their lives shattered, but intact. The Oasis Tours and Adventures sign on Hamra Street was taken down. The windows were papered over. The bright, hopeful blue and gold faded under the Beirut sun. The other branches, Damascus, Cairo, Amman, were quietly liquidated, their assets sold, their employees dismissed. The corporation vanished. Operation Odyssey was over. In Tel Aviv, the file was stamped closed. The travel agency model was deemed a spectacular success and a catastrophic failure. It had provided the perfect cover, the perfect logistics. It had allowed Mossad to neutralize one of the most dangerous bomb makers in the world from deep inside hostile territory. But it had also demonstrated the flaw in deep civilian cover, human connection. Ami had broken the cardinal rule. He had let an asset live. He had let a civilian witness go. He was reprimanded. He was also, quietly, given a medal. He understood the paradox. The agency's legacy is not in its successes, but in its method. It proved that in the world of espionage, the most effective weapon is not a gun. It is a brochure. It is a hotel reservation. It is the overwhelming, deceptive power of the mundane. Oasis Tours sold the world a dream, while its manager hunted nightmares in the lobby. The file is closed, but the method lives on. If you found this investigation compelling and want more stories from the archives of intelligence, make sure you are subscribed and have that notification bell clicked. We have many more files to open.